Today, we're going to be talking about step 4 and the spiritual principle of courage. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Starve the Demon, Recovery by Any Means Necessary. I'm your host, Jenna, and today we're going to be working out of the Narcotics Anonymous basic text, as well as the It Works How and Why. I will be reading it as if I'm speaking to a sponsee new to the program and has not yet read the literature or worked the steps. I'm going to also be giving some questions and just trying to explain as much as I can as we go through it as if I were speaking to a sponsee of my own. If you're new to the channel, please like the video, subscribe, leave a comment. That really helps me out. And of course, you can check out my website, starvethedemon.com, buy a t-shirt, buy a coffee, leave $1 if you got one. If you don't, hang out anyway. So let's talk about step 4. Everybody's scared of step 4. Nothing to be scared of. If you've been watching my videos up to this point, you know that I believe that step 4 is a real turning point. Just think about this. All the stuff you're going to bring up, something you've already survived. Let's get started. In the chapter, How It Works, on page 27, step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. The purpose of a searching and fearless moral inventory is to sort through the confusion and the contradiction of our lives so that we can find out who we really are. We are starting a new way of life and need to be rid of the burdens and traps that controlled us and prevented our growth. You've heard me say before, the trauma, the drama, the chaos. That is me paraphrasing this sentence right here. The burdens and traps that controlled us and prevented our growth. If that's not trauma, drama, and chaos, I don't know what is. Mango. As we approach this step, most of us are afraid that there is a monster inside of us that, if released, will destroy us. That monster is the addiction demon. This fear can cause us to put off our inventory or may even prevent us from taking this crucial step at all. We have found that fear is a lack of faith, and we have found a loving, personal God to whom we can turn. We no longer need to be afraid. We have been experts in self-deception and rationalization. By writing our inventory, we can overcome these obstacles. A written inventory will unlock the parts of our subconscious that remain hidden when we simply think about or talk about who we are. There is something about the connection between the brain and the hand and the pen. By writing it down, we keep things in order. We keep from going over the same thing twice, and we don't really skip things because as you're writing things down, things come to you. Once it is all down on paper, it is much easier to see and much harder to deny our true nature. Honest self-assessment is one of the keys to our new way of life. You cannot change what you don't acknowledge. Let's face it, when we were not honest with ourselves. We are becoming honest with ourselves when we admit that addiction has defeated us and that we need help. It took a long time to admit that we were beat. We found that we do not recover mentally, physically, emotionally overnight. Step 4 will help us toward our recovery. Most of us find that we were neither as terrible or as wonderful as we supposed. We're surprised to find we have good points in our inventory. Anyone who has some time in this program and has worked this step will tell you that the 4th step has been a turning point in their life. Some of us make the mistake of approaching the 4th step as if it were a confession to how horrible we are. What a bad person we have been. In this new way of life, a binge of emotional sorrow can be dangerous. This is not the purpose of the 4th step. We are trying to free ourselves of living in the old, useless patterns. We take the 4th step to grow and gain strength and insight. We may approach the 4th step in a number of ways. To have the faith and courage to write a fearless inventory, steps 1, 2, and 3 are the necessary preparation. It is advisable that before we start, we go over the first 3 steps with a sponsor. We get comfortable with our understanding of these steps. We allow ourselves the privilege of feeling good about what we're doing. We have been thrashing around for a long time and getting nowhere. Now we start the 4th step and let go of fear. And we simply put it on paper to the best of our present ability. There's no getting it perfect. The only step you have to do 100% is the first one. The 4th one, you're going to do the best you can at the time that you're doing it. There's going to be things that pop up later that completely slipped your mind, but that's okay. You deal with them when they come. We must be done with the past, not cling to it. We want to look the past in the face, see it for what it really was, and release it so we can live today. The past, for most of us, has been a ghost in the closet. We have been afraid to open that closet for fear of what that ghost may do to us. We do not have to look at that alone. Our wills and our lives are now in the hands of our higher power. Writing a thorough and honest inventory seemed impossible. It was, as long as we were operating under our own power. We take a few quiet moments before writing and ask for strength to be fearless and thorough. That's what I always tell my sponsees. Start half an hour at a time. The first thing you're going to do is just make a list of names. You sit down, you say, God, higher power, help me to make this list. Help me to be fearless and thorough. And you just write the names. Not what they did, not why they did it, da-da-da-da. You're just writing the names of anybody that you have a resentment towards. If it goes longer, 30 minutes, great. Don't let it go less than 30 minutes. Sit your butt in that chair, pen in hand, paper in front of you, and write as many names as you can in that half hour. Once you start writing the names, they're going to come quick. They're going to flood. I was 45 when I did it, so I had a lot of names. Just get them down the best that you can. In step 4, we learn to get in touch with ourselves. We write about our liabilities, such as guilt, shame, remorse, self-pity, resentment, anger, depression, frustration, confusion, loneliness, anxiety, betrayal, hopelessness, failure, fear, and denial. We write about the things that bother us here and now. We have a tendency to think negatively, so putting it on paper gives us a chance to look more positively at what is happening. Because a lot of times we are holding resentments not about what actually happened, but about the story we told ourselves about what happened. Assets must also be considered if we are going to get a complete and accurate picture of ourselves. This is very difficult for most of us because it is hard to accept that we have good qualities. However, we all have assets, many of them newly found in the program. We didn't even know we had them. Assets such as being clean, open-mindedness, God awareness, honesty with others, acceptance, positive action, sharing, willingness, courage, faith, caring, gratitude, kindness, and generosity. Also, our inventories usually include material on relationships. We review our past performance and our present behavior to see what we want to keep and what we want to discard. No one is forcing us to give up our misery. This step has the reputation of being difficult. In reality, it is quite simple, as is most things in recovery. It's very simple. That doesn't mean it's easy. We write our inventory without considering the 5th step. We work step 4 as if there were no step 5, because that holds people back. They don't want to tell it. Step 5 is what? Admitting it to ourselves, to God, and to another human being. Well, I don't want to tell it. You can't think about that. You don't think about step 9 when you're working step 8. Don't think about step 5 when you're working step 4. One day at a time. Keep your head where your feet are. What you're doing is what you're doing. And right now, you're making a list. We can write along or near other people. Whatever is more comfortable to the writer is fine. I did it in rehab. I sat down at the table surrounded by other people, doing my thing, focused on what I was doing. Some people can't do that. They get distracted or they're concerned somebody else is going to see what's on their list. Fine, you go sit in your room, go find a quiet place, go sit on a park bench, but be where you can be comfortable to truly just let it out onto the paper. We can write as long or as short as needed. Someone with experience can help. The important thing is to write a moral inventory. If the word moral bothers us, we may call it a positive/negative inventory. The way to write the inventory is to write it. Thinking about an inventory, talking about it, theorizing about the inventory will not get it written. We sit down with a notebook, ask for guidance, pick up our pen, and start writing. Anything we think about is inventory material. If you have sat down and you have prayed and you have said, I'm going to give myself this 30 minutes, anything and everything that pops into your head during that 30 minutes, break that down. Don't analyze it. Don't try to justify it, rationalize it. Just write it down. When we realize how little we have to lose and how much we have to gain, we begin this step. A basic rule of thumb is that you can write too little, yet we can never write too much. I tell my sponsees, you don't have to write a novel, because you're not reading it to me. It's for yourself. It's so that you can look at the list, go down it and say, okay, this person did this. It affected my this, and it's showing up in my life this way. You're looking for your patterns of behavior and your patterns of reaction and what things in your life create a resentment or a fear. So you don't have to write your entire life story. You don't have to write a page for each person. If you can write 2 words and you're going to be able to tell the whole story off of those 2 words, just write the 2 words. You don't have to proofread it. Your grammar doesn't have to be correct. Your punctuation doesn't have to be correct. None of that's going to matter. The inventory will fit the individual. Perhaps this seems difficult or painful. It may appear impossible. We may fear that being in touch with our feelings will trigger an overwhelming chain reaction of pain and panic. We may feel like avoiding an inventory because of a fear of failure. When we ignore our feelings, the tension becomes too much for us. The fear of impending doom is so great that it overrides our fear of failure. And inventory becomes a relief because the pain of doing it is less than the pain of not doing it. We learn that pain can be a motivating factor in recovery. Thus, facing it becomes unavoidable. Every topic of step meetings seems to be on the 4th step or doing a daily inventory. Through the inventory process, we are able to deal with all the things that can build up. The more we live our program, the more God seems to put us in positions where issues surface. When issues surface, we write about them. We begin enjoying our recovery because we have a way to resolve shame, guilt, or resentment. The stress once trapped inside of us is released. Writing will lift the lid off of our pressure cooker. We decided whether we want to serve it up, put the lid back on it, or throw it out. We no longer have to stew in it. We don't have to wallow in it. It doesn't have to drown us. And those ghosts in your closet become soldiers in your army. We sit down with paper and pen and ask for our God's help in revealing the defects that are causing pain and suffering. We pray for the courage to be fearless and thorough, and that this inventory may help us put our lives in order. When we pray and take action, things go better for us. Test it out. Test the theory. Pray and take action for 90 days and see if at the end of that 90 days your life isn't better than it was 90 days before. Leave me a comment. Let me know. I already know the answer. I'd like to know when you figure out the answer. We are not going to be perfect. If we were perfect, we would not be human. The important thing is that we do our best. We use the tools available to us, and we develop the ability to survive our emotions. We do not want to lose any of what we have gained. We want to continue in the program. It is our experience that no matter how searching and thorough, no inventory is of any lasting effect unless it is promptly followed by an equally thorough 5th step. So we talked about the 5th step in the next video. Right now, we're going to talk about still the 4th step, and it works how and why. Now, I like the basic text. It makes things very simple to understand, but I feel like that it works how and why is better at giving direction. Now, some of you might be using the NA step guide workbook, which some people find very helpful. As a matter of fact, when I was doing my steps, I was working with an AA sponsor, but I did use the NA workbook to help just to guide me, get my thoughts flowing. I was 45 years old when I did it. I really didn't want to miss anything. I didn't want to have to do it again. Some sponsors will require you to use that workbook. I don't have that requirement for my sponsor. I would say the NA book, 1953, the workbook came out in the 80s, and I dare say that plenty of people got clean before that workbook hit the scene. But if it helps you, use it 1000%. We're on page 36 of It Works How and Why, step 4. We made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. And those 2 words, searching and fearless, you have nothing to be afraid of. I've said it before. I'll say it a million more times. You've already survived everything so far. I can tell because you're sitting here watching this video. Your higher power has showed up for you every single day. I know he showed up for me. You know how I know? Because I'm sitting here. That's how I know. I have survived everything up until this moment in time. And my higher power has showed up for me every single day. Whether I was recognizing it or not, it was happening. By working the first 3 steps, we have formed a solid foundation for our recovery. Remember, we talked about it before. If you're going to build on sand, it's all going to fall apart. Our active addiction cannot remain arrested, however, unless we build upon this foundation. As we work the 3rd step, many of us were puzzled. How can we make sure we're really turning our will and lives over to the care of God? The answer is simple. We work the remainder of the steps, starting with step 4. I just said, pray about it and take action. Steps 4 through 12 are the action that we take to turn our will and our life over to the care of God as we understand Him. Sometimes I have to think about what God's will is and what it isn't. And God's will would never be for me to go against the spiritual principles that I learned working these steps. He's never going to want me to do something that's dishonest, unfaithful, cowardly, manipulative, or lazy. If what I'm about to do falls under the opposite of the spiritual principles, it's not the right thing. And it's not what God would want for me. So that's the little litmus test that I use. Why work the 4th step? After all, we've been able to stay clean so far, but some of us are still haunted by a driving obsession to use drugs. What did we talk about before? What is addiction? It is a physical craving combined with a mental obsession. You can get the drugs out of your system, but if you're steady thinking about getting high, you're mentally obsessed, demon's still going to get you. Others find that the feelings of discomfort are more subtle, a nagging feeling that something isn't quite right, a sense of impending doom, or feelings of fear and anger that have no apparent reason. Still, others may think we're doing just fine without a 4th step. However, our experience as a fellowship has shown that sooner or later, members who don't work this crucial step relapse. I'll tell you, if you work these steps, you won't relapse. If you don't, you might. Just because you don't work the steps doesn't mean that you're going to relapse. And just because you do work the steps doesn't mean you won't relapse. But if you fearlessly and thoroughly don't leave nothing out, don't skirt over nothing, don't keep nothing back. I've never known anybody that worked all 12 steps fearless and thoroughly to the best of their ability and relapse. I've never met that person. And the people that I know that have relapsed, I promise you, they did not work all 12 steps fearlessly and thoroughly. There was some piece of it that they missed. There was something they wouldn't do or couldn't do or decided they didn't have to do. And it came and bit them in the boo-boo. I'm not saying that the 12 steps is the only way to get and stay clean. But this video is about the 4th step. And I would tell you this, if you're going to work a program, work that program. You're not going to be a 12-stepper, fine, don't be a 12-stepper. But if you are going to be a 12-stepper, work the damn steps. For many of us, our motivation to work the 4th step is quite simple. We're working a program of recovery and we want to continue. Because our disease involves much more than our drug use, recovery involves more than simple abstinence from drugs. The solution to our problem is a profound change in our thinking and behavior. We need to change how we perceive the world and alter our role in it. We need to change our attitude. Whether our motivation is the desire to move away from our addiction or to move toward recovery doesn't really matter. The 4th step is a turning point in our journey of recovery. It is a time for deep personal reflection. The confusion that we attempted to mask with self-deception and drugs is about to diminish. We are embarking on a search for insight into ourselves, our feelings, our fears, our resentments, and the patterns of behavior that make up our lives. We may be very frightened at the prospect of examining ourselves so thoroughly. We don't know ourselves very well, and we may not be sure we want to. Our fear of the unknown may seem overwhelming at this point. But if we recall our faith and trust in our higher power, our fear can be overcome. We believe that part of God's will for us is to work the steps. We trust that the final outcome of working the 4th step will be the continued healing of our spirits, and we go on. The principles of recovery that we have already begun to practice are vital to working the 4th step. The honest acceptance of our addiction brought with us from step 1 will help us to be honest about other aspects of our addiction. We've developed a level of trust and faith in a power greater than ourselves, and that glimmer of hope is growing with every day clean. We've paved the way to recovery with our willingness, and we find the courage necessary to work the fourth step through living these principles. Honesty is an essential part of this step. Our years of living a lie must end. If we sit down and become very quiet with ourselves, we will find it easier to get in touch with the truth. What we currently know to be true, we put on paper, holding nothing back. Telling the truth is a brave act, but with our faith and trust in the God of our understanding, we find the courage we need to be searching and fearless. With our courage, we are able to put on paper those things we thought we'd never tell. You ever heard, I'm going to die with the lie? You might die because of the lie. What is meant by a searching and fearless moral inventory? We take stock of our assets and liabilities. What's good about us? What would we like to change about ourselves? What's holding us back and keeping us from growing? We try to get at the bottom of who we are to expose the lies we have told ourselves about ourselves. For years, we became whoever we needed to be to survive our addiction. After living a lifetime of lies, we began to believe those lies. Although we did discover some valuable truths in the first step, the fourth step further separates fantasy from reality. We can begin to stop being the person we invented and find the freedom to be who we are. If the word moral bothers us, we have found that talking with our sponsor about our reservations can ease our discomfort. A moral inventory doesn't mean that we will condemn ourselves. In reality, the inventory process is one of the most loving things we can do for ourselves. We simply look at our instincts, our desires, our motives, our tendencies, and the compulsive routines that kept us trapped in our addiction. No matter how many days or how many years we've been clean, we are still human and subject to defects and failings. An inventory allows us to look at our basic nature with its flaws and its strengths. We look not only at our imperfections, but also at our hopes and our dreams, our aspirations, and where they may have gone astray. Step 4 is a big step forward on the path of recovery. What did you want to be when you grew up? What did you want to do? Because it certainly wasn't, I'm going to grow up and be a drug addict. I'm going to grow up and be a criminal. I'm going to grow up and do some time. No. Who is it that you thought you would be? Where did that go wrong? And what can you do to make those dreams come true? Well, all that might just start with this here step 4. Some of us may want to write our inventory all at once. Others spend some time writing each day. Anytime we sit down to write, we ask our higher power for the courage and honesty we need to be thorough and to reveal what we are searching for. In most cases, we are relieved to find that once we begin, the words seem to flow naturally. We need not worry about what we are writing. Our higher power will reveal no more to us than we can handle. I've told this story before, being almost 3 years in recovery, and I was at work. This lady had popped into my head. I had completely forgot to put on my 4th step, my 8th step, anywhere else. She was not there. I had that flash, and I was like, I have to handle this right now. So I did. Another time, I remember something that had happened when I was in junior high school. That time, I tried calling my sponsor, and it was like the middle of the night. I couldn't get hold of her. So I got on Facebook on one of the recovery pages that I'm on, and I'm like, yo, I do this horrible thing, and I need to 4th or 5th step it like right now. And so I had a bunch of strangers helping me 4th and 5th step this thing that had happened when I was in junior high. It was crazy. But sometimes it's like that, especially if you're older. I can't hardly remember what I had for breakfast. I think it's too much to handle all at one time with clear thinking and clear glasses and go, oh my God, I really did do that. I really did say that. I really did act that way. It will be revealed to you. Some stuff's just not going to come up the first time. It's just not. You're going to be out fishing one day and all of a sudden remember you owe somebody an event or somebody did something. You go, oh, you know what? I've been mad about that for 20 years. So it'll come when it comes. Things happen in God's time, not ours. Most of us don't have much experience with the type of self-appraisal we are about to do, and we must have the guidance and support of our sponsor in order to understand what we're doing. Our sponsor may give us a format to follow, certain subjects or points to concentrate on, or just general guidance. Not only can our sponsor provide direction for the actual inventory, he or she can encourage us to be courageous, remind us to pray, and be emotionally supportive throughout this process. We strengthen our relationship with our sponsor by relying on her or his experience at this time. It is a great honor to be asked to sponsor someone. It truly is. Consistent action on our fourth step is important. We can't afford to delay work on our inventory. Listen, it could take you a few times. It's going to take as long as it takes. Okay? The longer you let it drag out, the longer it takes you to get to freedom. That's all it is. As a sponsor, I'm not doing it for you. I'm encouraging. I'm not here to condemn and judge. Who am I to say how long it's supposed to take you to get it done? You could barrel through it and miss a whole bunch of stuff because you just so want to get it done. There's no wrong answer. Some people can sit down and whip it out in a couple of days. I had a sponsee one time. It's funny. She was making her list and she tried to tell me that she only had 6 people on her list. I've got 6 people on mine with today. Since I left my house this morning, I can think of 6 people. What are you talking about, 6? You're 30 years old. You got way more than 6 people. But that's what a sponsor's for, is to help guide you and call you on your bullshit. That's what we do. That's what you someday will do. Oh, your sponsor will always tell you right off the rip, I need you to call me every day because they want to see if you can follow directions. That's all that is. If you're in rehab, sometimes your sponsor will tell you, well, call me every day and we'll get started on steps when you actually get out of rehab. Because rehab's doing its own thing. My rehab, every time I met with my counselor, her first question was, what step are you on? So it just depends. It depends on what environment you're in. It depends on who your sponsor is, what kind of meetings you're going to. You do the best you can with what you've got. And that's why we have the literature. Because if ever your sponsor is trying to tell you to do something and it goes against the literature, you can always check the literature and then maybe check your sponsor. Anyway, enough about me. Consistent action on our 4th step is important. We can't afford to delay work on our inventory. Once we begin writing, we need to continue our inventory until we are done. If we have a tendency to procrastinate, it is a good idea to set aside a certain amount of time each day to work on our inventory. Such a routine establishes our inventory as a high priority in our lives. If we put our 4th step away once we have begun, we run the risk of never returning to it. Don't prioritize your schedule, you schedule your priorities. This is a big deal to you. Sit down and get it done. Don't rush through it so fast that you miss something, but don't be all lollygagging and not getting it done. Because why? What are you putting off? You're just elongating the process. The quicker you get it done, the quicker you get to move on to the next thing. Yay! We are painstaking and detail-oriented in our inventory. We systematically examine all aspects of our lives. We begin to see and understand the truth about ourselves, our motives, and our patterns. It is important that we look at more than one dimension of our experience. What motivated us to act the way we did? What repercussions did our behavior have in our lives? How did our behavior affect those around us? How did we harm others? How did we feel about our actions and others' reactions? While these are only a few of the points we address in our inventories, we have found them and other issues like them to be essential areas to examine. In the 4th step, it is important to take a good hard look at how fear has worked in our lives. Our experience tells us that self-centered fear is at the root of our disease. Many of us have pretended to be fearless when in fact we were terrified. Fear has driven us to act rashly in trying to protect ourselves. We have often been paralyzed into inaction because of our fears. We may have resorted to scheming and manipulating because we feared the future. We went to extremes to protect ourselves from what we saw as potential loss, disaster, and a constant lack of whatever we needed. In the past, we had no faith that a higher power would care for us. Therefore, we attempted to take control of our lives and everything around us. We used people, we manipulated, we lied, we plotted, we planned, we stole, we cheated, and then we lied more to cover up our schemes. We experienced envy, jealousy, and deep, gut-wrenching insecurities. We were alone, and we drove away the people who cared about us. We used more drugs, trying to cover up our feelings. The lonelier we felt, the more we tried to control everything and everybody. We suffered when things didn't go our way, but so strong was our desire for power and control that we couldn't see the futility of our efforts to manage events. In our new lives, we have faith in a loving God whose will for us is better than anything we could manipulate or control for ourselves. We need not fear what might happen. In our inventories, we assess the emotional effects of our addiction. Some of us became so skilled at shutting down our feelings with drugs or other distractions that by the time we came to our first meeting, we had lost touch with our own emotions. In recovery, we learn to identify what we are feeling. Naming our feelings is important, for once we do so, we can begin to deal with them. Rather than panicking over how we feel, we can specifically say how we're feeling. This gets us away from our limited way of identifying feelings as either good or bad with not much in between. Back when I was in prison, I was taking this class called the Life Connection program, and it was supposed to teach us how to put our faith into our lives. And whatever faith you were, they had a teacher there and a spiritual advisor. And we would have to answer questions based on our religions. We had Muslim girls, Catholic girls, Christian girls, Buddhist girls, Native American girls. I was doing one of these assignments and my spiritual advisor said, well, the answer's right, but I'm not getting any kind of feeling from you. I didn't even understand. What do you mean? And he said, well, I mean, the answer is correct, but how do you feel about it? And I said, well, I feel like the answer is correct. What are you asking me? I couldn't even fathom. Of course, I'm in prison, so I can't show weakness. Listen, when you think prison, you think like men's, whatever. It's different in women's prison. There's women are women. You do take care of each other, and it's okay to cry in prison, and it's okay to be sad. So you can be having your parents be crazy. Everybody understands. It's fine. But there's still a certain level of like crazy and badassery that you have to maintain so that you don't get messed with. On top of being an addict, I had spent years in prison at this point. So I had a very hard shell, and it wasn't a candy shell soft in the middle. No, it was just, and I was staying high. I had a lot going on. And when this man asked me, how did I feel? I literally, honestly had no idea how to answer that question. Just absolutely ridiculous. I couldn't analyze at all what I was feeling. There was probably 10 years of my life I didn't shed a tear over anything, ever. If I got sad, I immediately got angry because I could deal with anger better than I could deal with sadness. And I could deal with anger better than I could deal with fear. And the truth is that every emotion that I had was fear-based. And I didn't know that. Sorry. And if you said boo to me, I would out crazy you. I was very scary. Anger and rage. It's all I knew how to exhibit. It was the only way I knew to protect myself. Because if I allowed for any softer emotion, that made me vulnerable. And I couldn't have that because I was scared. I can say that now. A, I'm not that person anymore. And B, I'm not in that environment anymore. If you happen to be watching this and you're locked up, don't put yourself at risk. Don't do it. If you're not in an environment where you can be soft and vulnerable, don't be soft and vulnerable. We make a list of our resentments, for they often play a large part in making our recovery uncomfortable. We cannot allow ourselves to be obsessed with hostility towards others. We look at the institutions that may have affected us, our families, schools, employers, organized religion, the law, or jails. We list the people, places, social values, institutions, and situations against which we bear anger. So what did we just say there? The people, the institutions, these are things that you don't necessarily have a personal relationship with, but they have negatively affected your life. Could be school, the post office, turn signals, red lights, speed limits, whatever it is. We examine not only circumstances surrounding these resentments, but we look at the part we played in them. What in us was so threatened that we experienced such deep emotional torment? When we are upset by something, that says everything about us. I will give you an example. cliff in the turn signals. Man, he can't let it go. I get it. It's about the driver being inconsiderate to other drivers and being entitled and just whipping through traffic and with not a care to the other people around. It's a selfish thing. That irks him. We go to the gym. People drop the weights. Listen, pet peeve of mine too. I don't care for it. The difference is I don't notice it like he notices it. I have pocket awareness. Don't be creeping up on me. But as long as they're over there, I'm really not paying attention to what they're doing. And when they drop the weights, it doesn't always register with me. I've got my earphones in. I'm doing what I'm doing. It drives him nuts. And he feels compelled. He wants to go over there and shake them and go, what's wrong with you? Part of that is because he was a personal trainer for a long time and he's very into his physical fitness. And he knows that if you're lifting like that and you're not exerting control, you're not working the body like you're supposed to, and you could end up hurting yourself. So that's the first thought that goes through his head. And he wants to correct that person, but then he knows he shouldn't correct them. And that makes him feel all, because he's not able to just let that go. Maybe someday. They don't bother me at all. What bothers me is you being bothered because I love you. And when you're bothered, that bothers me. I recognize what it is about the situation that I find bothersome. What are you going to do? They live among us. What we get upset about is way more about us than it is about the person we're getting upset with. What is it about you that makes that upset you so much? That's what you're looking for with your 4-step. Often we will see that the same areas of our lives were affected again and again. We were just talking about you're looking for your patterns. These things happen over and over again. Did you ever hear the phrase that a woman will date the same guy over and over again? I mean, obviously it's a different guy, but it's the same type of guy over and over again because she's not figuring it out. We end up dating the same type of guy with the same characteristics, the same flaws. If every guy I date is a piece of crap, is that because there's a bunch of piece of crap guys out there, or am I the common denominator? Maybe there's something about me that needs to change, so I stop attracting this particular type of guy. Right? We look at our relationships as well, especially the manner in which we related to our families. We don't do this to place blame for our addiction on our families. We keep in mind that we are writing an inventory of ourselves, not of others. We write about how we felt about our families and the way we acted on our feelings. In most cases, we'll find that the patterns of behavior we established early in life are what we've carried with us up to the present. Some of our patterns and choices have served us well, while others have not. Through this inventory, we search for the patterns we want to continue and those we want to change. Writing about all of our relationships is very important, and we'll want to pay particular attention to our friendships. If we gloss over examining our platonic friendships in favor of focusing on romantic relationships, our inventories will be incomplete. Many of us come to NA never having had a long-term friendship because of conflicts within ourselves. Those conflicts were the real grounds for the arguments we started with our friends and our ensuing refusal to work through the disagreement and continue the friendship. Some of us felt that we would end up getting hurt in any close friendship, so before that happened, we arranged the end of the friendship ourselves. We may have feared intimacy to such a degree that we never revealed anything about ourselves to our friends. We may have induced guilt in our friends to ensure their loyalty or indulged in other forms of emotional blackmail. If our friends had others in their lives, we may have felt so jealous and insecure that we tried to remove the threat of their other friend. Our behavior ranged from taking our friends hostage to taking them for granted. We may find several instances where we sacrificed our friendships for romantic relationships. We will probably find identical conflicts and behavior in our romantic relationships. We'll see the same difficulties with trust, refusal to be vulnerable, and perhaps a lifelong pattern of inability to make commitments. As we write, we'll most likely see fear of intimacy in each relationship or discover that we've never understood the difference between intimacy and sex. Whether we ran from close relationships because of fear or because we had been hurt over and over again, we search out the common threads that appear in all of our relationships. We are the common denominator. We may find that our sexual beliefs and behavior have caused problems in our relationships. We may have settled for sex when we really wanted love. We may have used sex to get something we wanted or believed that by having sex, we could extract a commitment from an unwilling partner. We ask ourselves if our sexual behavior has been based in selfishness or love. We may have used sex to fill the spiritual void we felt inside. Some of us felt shame as a result of our sexual practices. After years of compulsively acting on our fears and misguided beliefs about sex, we want to be at peace with our own sexuality. This is a very uncomfortable topic for most of us. However, if we want something different than what we've had, it's necessary that we begin the process of change by writing about it. Some of us were abused. We may have been victims of incest or rape. We may have had terrible childhoods of deprivation and neglect. Experiences like these may have led us to inflict the same abuse on others. We may have prostituted ourselves or allowed other forms of degradation because we didn't feel that we deserved anything better. Though painful and sad, the past cannot be changed. However, the warped beliefs we have developed about ourselves and others can be changed with the help of our higher power. We write about events like these so that we can be free of our most painful secrets and get on with our lives. We don't have to be the lifelong victims of the past. You don't have to be a victim. You have survived everything so far. I'm nobody's victim. I am a survivor, and so can you be. To experience serenity, we must begin to alter the self-defeating patterns that have prevailed in our lives. The fourth step helps us identify those patterns. We begin to see how we have maneuvered through life, perhaps not consciously planning our own misery, but making choices which resulted in our lives becoming unmanageable. Most of us have blamed various people for the prices we paid for our addiction. We didn't want to accept that our addiction had a negative impact that we alone were responsible for. Some of us committed crimes and then complained about the consequences. Some of us were irresponsible at work and then objected loudly when we were held accountable. We beat a hasty retreat whenever life caught up with us. Our inventories will help us identify our responsibility for our actions and find those circumstances. Where we tend to place blame elsewhere, our booklet, Working Step 4 in Narcotics Anonymous, can provide more avenues to explore. They're talking about a pamphlet you can pick up at any Narcotics Anonymous meeting. I don't have it here with me, so I'm not going to be going through it right now. The quality of our lives depends to a large degree on the results of our decisions. As we write our inventory, we look for the times when we made decisions that hurt us. We also look for those times when we made decisions that worked out well. This is how we find our assets. Hey, I made that choice and I was successful. That brought joy. Yay! If we lived our lives by default, refusing to make any choices, we write about that too. Those times when we procrastinated until opportunities were missed and gone. The times when we abandoned all responsibility. The times when we withdrew and refused to participate in life. All are inventory material. Most of us had hopes and dreams for ourselves at some point in our lives, but we abandoned those in the pursuit of our addiction. In our inventory, we try to recall our lost dreams and find out how our choices had ruined our chances of having those dreams come true. We ask ourselves when we stop believing in ourselves and when we stop believing in anything outside ourselves. Through this process, our lost dreams may reawaken. We dig deep to learn how we lived in conflict with our own morals and values. If we believed it was wrong to steal, and we were stealing everything we could get our hands on anyway, what did we do to quiet our anguish? If we believed in monogamy, but were unfaithful to our partners, what did we do that we could live with our compromised principles? Certainly, we used more drugs, but what else? We explore how we felt about ignoring our deepest beliefs. In the process, we discover our lost values so that we can begin to rebuild them. In our inventories, we will need to be aware of our assets. Most of us being unaccustomed to looking for our character strengths, we might have some trouble with this task. But if we examine our behavior with an open mind, we're sure to find situations where we persevered in the face of adversity, showed concern for others, or even where our spirit triumphed over our addiction. We begin to uncover the pure and loving spirit that lies at the core of our being as we look for our character asset. We begin to define our values. We learn what we can do, and more importantly, what we can't do if we want to lead productive and fulfilling lives. What we did in our active addiction will not work for us in recovery. Step 4 allows us to chart a new course for our lives. The 4th step provides us with the initial insight we need to grow. Whether we are writing our first inventory or our 20th, we are starting a process that takes us from confusion to clarity, from resentment to forgiveness, from spiritual confinement to spiritual freedom. We can turn to this process again and again. When we are confused, when we are angry, when we have problems that don't seem to disappear, an inventory is a good way to take stock of just where we stand on the path to recovery. After we have written a number of inventories, we may discover that our 4th step merely scratched the surface. As different attitudes and behaviors become apparent to us in later recovery, we'll want to renew the process of change by working the 4th step again. The steps are tools we use over and over on our spiritual path. In the process of our recovery, God will reveal more to us as we have the maturity and the spiritual strength to understand it. Over time, the nature of the work we have to do is disclosed to us. As we continue in recovery, we begin to resolve some of the basic conflicts contributing to our addiction. As the pain of old wounds begins to fade, we begin to live more fully in the present. The 4th step allows us to identify the patterns, behaviors, and beliefs that show us the exact nature of our wrongs. We have written an inventory of ourselves, which has revealed what we can change with God's help. To continue the process of change, we move on, making our admissions in step 5. So that's going to be the next video, step 5, of course. So where are we here? The first thing you're going to do is write down the list of names. Everybody that pops into your head that you have a resentment towards. Everybody that when you think about that person, you have feelings of anger, fear, jealousy, whatever. If it's a negative emotion attached to that person, that name goes on the list. Once you've got all those names, the next thing you're going to write is what happened. I'm mad at Susie because she pushed me off the stone. Okay. That's your second column. And you do that all the way down. Each name gets a reason for this resentment, for this anger, for this negative emotion that you feel towards that person. Then you're going to put, what did it affect? What harm did it cause to your life? Was it your self-esteem, your money, your relationships? Did it create a fear in you? And the fear part's very important because your next list, same thing. Every fear that you have, and you get those by going down that first part, your resentments, and everything where you had a fear mark, bam, that goes on your fears list. And yes, it's a separate list because fear is an underlying emotion. Resentment, those are all secondary emotions that really stem from fear. By doing this, you start to see your patterns. Who and what and how did it affect? You're going to see the same instances, the same things happen over and over again, and they elicit the same emotional response because they harm your life in the same way. And that's where you start to see your patterns. Then you go, oh, well, if I don't want this outcome, I need to change this behavior that starts with this emotion. There is a reason for the process. So step 4 is where we really stop telling ourselves stories and look at what and who we actually are, what has actually happened to us, what we have survived, why we're mad, why we're scared, all of those things. But it's not just about what has been done to us. It's about how we have reacted to those things and how we have developed these repeating patterns in our life so that we can break those patterns. This isn't about shame. It's about clarity. Because if you don't know what you're dealing with, you can't change it. Don't worry about making it perfect. You're not writing a novel. You're taking an inventory. A half-done inventory will keep you stuck. Be honest, not dramatic. Don't exaggerate and don't minimalize. Just the facts, what the patterns are, and the part you played in it. Your part matters. Sometimes your part is obvious. Just be honest about that. It doesn't have to be tragic. Sometimes your part is just you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, doing the wrong thing with the wrong people, and a bad thing happened. Sometimes it's having unrealistic expectations. Sometimes that's really all it is. But maybe you misjudged somebody. Maybe you gave somebody more credit than they deserved. Maybe you gave yourself more credit than you deserve. Maybe you didn't give yourself enough credit. Sometimes your part is being in denial, trying to be people pleasing, trying to be in control, trying to avoid something. Whatever it is, own it. And if you start spinning out, you start spiraling, you're not doing it alone. You have your higher power. You have a sponsor. And by this point, you should have a sober network, meetings that you're going to, people that you can reach out to and go, listen, I need help, and accept the help that's offered. It's okay to ask for help. You don't have to wait till you have it all written down to call your sponsor and say, hey, I'm stuck or I'm not sure about this. Have your sponsor be working with you as you go through it. So right now, go and write your first column. Write your names, all your resentments, all your fears, and all your relationships. Then go over it. You're not looking at it to judge yourself. You're looking at it to see your patterns. Highlight the things that you see over and over again. And then you can start identifying those character defects. What are you looking for? Fear, control, dishonesty, resentment, selfishness, whatever shows up again and again. Not vague, like, oh, I'm just a mess. Oh, I suck. No, that doesn't get it. That's a cop-out, and that's letting you off the hook too easy. Be specific. I have a fear of abandonment. I have a need for control. I'm dishonest. I have resentments. I can't be trusted. This is all preparing for step 5, because step 4 pulls it up, but then you got to do something with it. That's what step 5 is for. If you've made it this far, you're doing something a lot of people never have the courage to do. You are facing yourself. And yeah, it's uncomfortable, but not doing it is way worse, because the freedom you're looking for is on the other side of telling these truths. That's it for me today. Thank you so much for coming. Again, like, subscribe, comment, check out the website, starvethedemon.com, buy a t-shirt, buy me a cup of coffee, tell all your friends if you still have any, and I will see you next time, and we're going to talk about step 5. Love everybody. Keep coming back. I'm going to keep coming back.